If you're like most people, you may find yourself looking for some special diet that you can start in order to lose weight, trim up a little bit, maybe get a smaller waist. And there's all kinds of diets out there that you can choose from. Now, before you get all caught up in the search, in finding the perfect diet for losing weight, there are some things that you really need to keep in mind, regardless of the diet that you choose. So today I'm going to be sharing with you 3 common pitfalls that you'll want to avoid in your search for the best diet. Let's dive in! Welcome to episode 38 of the LeRock Show, where I'm here to help you get your fitness back on track at any age and regardless of your current fitness level, so that you can spend more quality time with your families, have a brighter outlook on life, and finally find the true joy that life has to offer. I'm your host, LeRock. It's another amazing day today, and I'm so thankful that I get to sit here and share a few more of my little tips and tricks with you so that you can hopefully have an easier time at this whole weight loss thing, and also have a little bit more of an advantage when it comes to taking back your health and fitness. For those of you who are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thanks again for listening. Thanks for putting me in your ears, and thanks for your reviews each week, because it really does help me get my message out there. And for those of you watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with it, and hopefully you're implementing some of these little changes into your own life so that you can lose the weight and so that you can find a healthier and more fulfilling life. Your reviews and feedback are always appreciated, and I'm always interested in what you have to say. For those of you who are watching for the first time, I'm a 52-year-old fitness enthusiast. I've been training for roughly 39 years, and I ended up at a place at a young age where I was in really good shape. And unfortunately, I also found myself in the state of obesity, not only once, but twice. And this show is all about the life lessons that I came across in my journey to lose weight and how I kept it off for the last more than 15 years now. I'm sharing that information with you on this channel. This week in particular, we're going to be talking again about dieting. There's many different diets out there that you can seek out, whether it be paleo or intermittent fasting or South Beach diet or keto diet, whatever it might be. There's all kinds of diets available for you to follow, and some are better than others. But there's 3 common pitfalls that I want to talk about today when it comes to any diet. So this is regardless of the diet that you're planning to choose, that I really want to share with you so you can keep it in mind and hopefully to help save you some wasted time and effort in the process. Now, before we jump in, I'd like to start by offering you a free gift. I call it my Automate Your Plate checklist. Automate Your Plate is something that I created more than 15 years ago, back when I found myself in the state of obesity for a second time. I needed to find an eating approach that not only addressed the biology, the macronutrients and all that great stuff, the nutritional stuff, but also included a way of addressing my psychology, removing temptations, making things more seamless. And what I did is I put together this eating approach called Automate Your Plate. I used Automate Your Plate to lose 65 pounds in 13 weeks, but the coolest part is that was more than 15 years ago, and I've maintained a healthy and fit body ever since. So yes, I'm offering you the Automate Your Plate checklist for free, and if you want to get yourself a copy, you can go to ethanlerock.com/automate. That's ethanlerock.com/automate. And if you're watching on YouTube, there is a link down below. You can click on it and you can get it there. Okay, so I'm not going to waste any of your time, and we're going to get right into it. The 3 common pitfalls that many people find themselves in when they're starting any diet. And I want to talk a little bit about that in order to hopefully save you some wasted time and wasted effort, and also to just help you have a different mindset when it comes to this whole dieting and nutritional thing. Now, the number 1 thing that I suggest, pitfall that many people fall into, is they try to identify themselves by the way they eat. For example, they might say, I'm a carnivore, or I'm an omnivore, or I'm a vegan, or I'm a vegetarian, or I'm plant-based. And the reason I really suggest and advise that you avoid doing that, avoid labeling yourself as as something the way you eat is because it really, when you do so, when you start labeling yourself as, the way you're eating, okay? Say for example, you say I'm a vegetarian, or I'm a vegan, or I'm a carnivore, or whatever it might be. When you get so narrow focused, when you limit your beliefs on how you can eat, and you begin to actually identify by the way you eat, what happens is you remove all objectivity from your decision making on how you're going to eat. And you prevent yourself from being open-minded. You prevent yourself from potential improvements you can make with your nutrition. And on a scientific level, whether it be biology or whether it be psychology or whatever, you've got blinders on now, and you don't allow yourself the ability anymore to look at other things that you could be doing with your diet to improve. The other thing this causes is unnecessary drama in your life. It's okay to just be a regular person who eats food, and you eat in whatever way you want to eat. You eat in the best way, guess what? That's going to help you keep your weight off. It's going to help you live a healthy and long life. It's going to make you feel good. It doesn't have to be any defined method for the way you're going to eat. And by all means, it shouldn't define who you are. It shouldn't be an identity that you're labeling yourself with. Because again, what does that all mean? It's just food that you're ingesting. It's just a type of food that you're eating. And it closes off your mind when you start believing that you are, that your physical identity is related to the way that you eat. Because the truth is, there are pros and cons to every different eating approach. There's pros and cons to being a carnivore, to being an omnivore, to being a vegan, a vegetarian, plant-based. They all have their pros and cons. And those are decisions that you should make, based on your own needs. But the whole thing is you should just avoid labeling yourself based on those things in order to keep your mind open to new suggestions that can help improve your health. Because that's what this is all really about. It's about what is going to make us be the best versions of ourselves. What is going to give us the best chances at having a well-balanced diet, at keeping weight off, at keeping our blood pressure down, giving us an advantage to live a healthy life. That's what it's really all about. And when you're choosing a diet for yourself, you really should have an open mind. Even me, I've been on my eating approach for more than 15 years now. And it has served me very well. But I am not closed-minded. I do not say that my way of eating is the only way of eating. In fact, I'm the automate your plate guy. And that's who I am. Well, that's not true. I have found a way that works for me. Nutritionally, I feel good. I feel healthy. I can breathe good. I keep the weight off. But it's not what identifies me as who I am. It's not what I identify with. That's the key thing. That's what's important to keep in mind, because if I found something better tomorrow that was even better than what I'm doing today, well, guess what? I would do that, because that's the way decisions should be made when it comes to your health and nutrition. And there is one caveat to that I want to address. When it comes to being a vegan or a vegetarian, if your reason for doing that has to do with animals, and that your belief is that you don't want to do anything that harms animals, well, I totally understand that, and I get that. And in fact, I honor that, because that is an amazing characteristic to have. It's very selfless. And I just had to address that because it does conflict with this very first pitfall that I'm talking about. If your reasoning is a belief, okay, that animals need to be protected and we shouldn't be eating them, then that's a different thing altogether. I'm talking about people out there that are labeling themselves as vegans or vegetarians just for the sole sake of being in the club. Just I'm that type of person. Because it's not healthy. It's not good to do that for reasons that aren't really justified. And that also goes for people that, are carnivores. That they're just being carnivores, labeling themselves as carnivores so they can be against vegan and vegetarianism. It's just as bad. It's just silliness, because we're humans, we're people. There are much bigger things that we should be focusing on in life and identifying ourselves with in life. Being a good father, being a good mother, being a good person in the community, giving back to the community, having an empathetic ear for a friend, going out of your way, volunteering, doing things that help others. Those are places where we should be putting our energy. You want to identify yourself? Being a good citizen. I'm a good citizen. I'm a person who cares about others. That's a great way to identify yourself. Again, I'll get off my soapbox, but that's just my opinion. The second thing I want to talk about today is this whole idea of demonizing one of the macronutrients. Saying that you shouldn't eat that macronutrient, whether it be carbohydrates, whether it be protein, or whether that be fats. Okay? These diets out there that butcher any one of these three macronutrients. I have a problem with that because it's very similar to the first thing I just talked about. It hinders our ability to be objective, to look at other opportunities that are out there that are going to serve us well. When you focus on low carb, for example, keep carbs low and everything, protein high or fats high or whatever, and carbs are evil. Well, other than high glycemic carbohydrates, of course we should avoid those because they spike our blood sugar and they cause our insulin to spike and they cause insulin resistance, which is a real big problem in society. But that doesn't mean that all carbohydrates are bad for you. Carbohydrates are a source of energy. Our bodies are used to using carbohydrates in order to move, to go about our day, to be able to think clearly. And if you do any kind of physical exercise, they're one of the best things you can tap into for, doing workouts. They also deliver glycogen to our muscles so that when we're working out, we have a quick access to energy. When you don't have any glycogen in your muscles, your muscles do not want to react. So if you're doing any kind of athletic stuff, it's not good to have zero carbs in your body. It just isn't. It isn't natural. It's not balanced. Any diet you choose should be balanced. And it shouldn't demonize any of these macronutrients. Protein's another one. There are some diets out there that say that protein should stay low. You should be on a high carb diet and proteins are bad for you. And there's scientific reasons for that as well. There's always pros and cons for all of them. The scientific reasons for protein is that, one of the byproducts of breaking down protein, there's all kinds of things that are released into the body that also can cause constipation, if you don't get enough fiber. And there's a myriad of things. Kidney stones can happen. But we're talking about excessive protein, and which is not good either. There are scientific studies that show that it's not good to be on a super high protein diet. But again, it's got to be based on common sense. If you do not have protein in your diet, your body will break down. You cannot live without protein in your diet. That's one of the key things. It's an essential thing. The essential amino acids are needed in order to build your body. It's one of the building blocks of everything that you are made up of. From the tip of your head all the way down to your toes. Protein is a contributor. That's what you're made out of. And again, it doesn't work by itself. It works with all the nutrients, all the other macronutrients as well in the body in order to be in harmony so that it can rebuild itself and so that you can continue to be alive. So saying that protein is bad and you shouldn't eat protein, well, that's just incorrect. And the third one of these, the one that gets the most abuse, I would say, is fats. It's an old mindset that fats are bad for you. People think that if you eat fat, then you're going to become fat. Well, there's again, this is paintbrush approach to one of the macronutrients. There are all different versions, just like carbohydrates. There's low glycemic carbohydrates, medium and high glycemic carbohydrates. There's complex and there's non-complex carbohydrates. Well, with fats, it's the same thing. There are all kinds of fats. There are saturated fats, trans fats, hydrogenated fats, and then there's good, nutritious, natural fats. And in fact, fats are a great source of energy. You just need to be a little smart about how you do it. You need to avoid the ones that are bad for you, the saturated fats, of course. You want to avoid your lards, your cooking oils, your vegetable oils. And you want to make sure you have good, nutritious fats in your diet, balanced in a balanced way. So it is true, there are some fats that are very high in calories. Just like any of the macronutrients, if you're ingesting a whole bunch of calories, well, you only use up so many calories in a day. And those calories will get stored as fat. But that doesn't mean that if you eat fat, that's why you become fat. That is totally wrong. And that's a pitfall that many people fall into. They don't understand that. In fact, I've seen certain athletes that have done very well on a high-fat diet. But that didn't mean they eliminated everything else. They didn't eliminate carbohydrates. They didn't eliminate protein from their diet. They just wanted to have fat as one of their higher sources of energy. And if it's done correctly, you can do very well. And you can maintain a very, very low percentage of body fat. I've seen athletes that have been down at 4 and 5% body fat, and one of their main things that they're eating is fats. So again, we shouldn't knock any of the macronutrients and treat them like they're a lesser thing. It's just silliness. It's things that us people make up, when realistically, we should just be eating a well-balanced diet. And the third and final thing, the third and final pitfall that many people fall into is a lack of consistency. Unless we're consistent with anything that we do with our health and fitness, we're gonna fail. That includes our exercise, and that especially includes our nutrition. If you find yourself starting on a diet and then you quit after like a week or two, and then you're trying some other diet and you quit again, or you're on it for a month and then all of a sudden you're not on it, and then you jump back onto a diet and then you're not on it, and you're not consistent with the way you eat, and you're quitting all the time, then it wreaks havoc on the body. The body is an amazingly adaptive thing, this body that we have. But it wreaks havoc when you are going on and off and switching all these different diets, restricting yourself for a period of time and then going back to just eating whatever you want. Hormonally, it's not good for the body. Calorie-wise, it's not good for the body. The shock that it puts on the system and the nervous system, it's not good for the body. What you really need to do is be consistent in the way you eat. I refer to it as the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. or Mrs. Hyde syndrome. These people that they find themselves in a tough spot with their weight. So they go out there and they search on the internet and look for the quickest way to lose weight and the best diet to lose weight. So they jump on this diet and they're super strict. All of a sudden they won't eat anything else and they're just eating what's on that diet. And then all of a sudden, boom, they go off and they're binge eating. They're eating junk all the time. They're not on their diet. And they've almost turned into like Mr. or Mrs. Hyde. They're just eating whatever they feel like eating, and it's usually really bad stuff. And it's in reaction to the restrictions that they placed on themselves. They're just acting out. You know why? Because they need pleasure in their lives. They restrict themselves so much that all they're feeling is pain. They're feeling like there's an emptiness. They're feeling like there's some lack. So what they do is they say, enough of that. They throw their hands up in the air and they just go and do whatever the heck they want because it feels good. It brings pleasure into their lives. So try your best to avoid the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. and Mrs. Hyde syndrome. So guess what the best way to go about doing that is? Having a written nutrition approach. That's right. All you need to do is whatever diet you decide to go on, in order to remain consistent, is to write out a diet plan, a nutrition plan that spells out from A to Z what you are going to be eating each day. What are those things that you're going to be putting in your plate? How much water are you going to be drinking each day? And you need to keep track of that. You need to just do the simple things. Do it as automatically as you can, but make sure you have a plan in place that you're going to follow. And that'll really help you improve your consistency when it comes to staying on your diet. So in summary, avoid labeling yourself according to the way you eat. Life will be a lot less dramatic. You'll have an open mind to new things, and you may be surprised at some of the wonderful foods that you can bring into your life when you no longer identify yourself based on the way you eat. We need to stop targeting and eliminating macronutrients from our diets just based on the latest diet or fad that's out there. We just have to have a common sense approach to how we eat and make sure that we're eating a well-balanced diet, because our bodies are made to work in harmony with all the macronutrients. And finally, you need to make sure you stay consistent. That means if you start a diet and you've made the intention of starting that diet, well, you better stay on it for at least 6 months. Give it a good 6 months of your effort, your commitment, your consistency. Like anything in life, you should give it a good 6 months, and then you're sure to see whether it's working for you or not. And make fine adjustments along the way if you have to, but stay consistent. Don't go into the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. or Mrs. Hyde syndrome, where you're all in and then you're all out. And you're all in again and you're all out. Because you'll never get anywhere if you're not consistent with how you eat. Now again, today's episode isn't something that you're going to expect to hear from somebody who's in health and fitness. Usually it's all just blinders on, and you should eat in this way, and this way that I believe is the best way to eat is the way to eat, and you should just do it my way. Well, there's more to it than that. We need to really think about our psychology, how we're identifying with food. How are we going to stay consistent on our eating, on our nutrition approach? Do we have a plan in place to help us to automate the whole darn thing? Because that's key to how you lose the weight and keep it off for a lifetime. I'm telling you that from experience. I'm not telling you that as something I read in a book. I'm telling you that from a very painful experience that I've had in my life, where I had all the education. I knew what workouts to do. I knew exactly how to lose weight. I knew how much cardio to do. I knew what foods to eat. I knew how to get my metabolism up by eating certain foods. But guess what? I found myself obese not only once, but twice. And it's because I wasn't thinking right. I wasn't putting things in my life that gave me an advantage, that set things in motion so that I wouldn't fall back down and gain a bunch of weight again and become this heavy-set guy again who's miserable. And that's why I'm here every week sharing this with you. So I'm humbled that I got to share this again with you today. And I'm thankful that I get to help, even if it's just a little bit, even if it just inspires and makes a light bulb go off. And even if I upset you this week by talking about not labeling yourself or identifying yourself based on what you eat, it's because I have your best interest in mind. Because I want you to do well. I want you to be open to all advantages, all ways of eating, if it's going to help you to get to where you need to be and get you there effectively and help you keep the weight off for the rest of your life, because I want the best for you. And again, if you are looking for an eating approach that is effective and super easy to follow, then by all means, go ahead and download my Automate Your Plate checklist. It is based on the eating approach that I created more than 15 years ago called Automate Your Plate. It's one of the 9 directives that I talk about in my book and that I teach in my online course. I used it myself to lose those 65 pounds in 13 weeks. And yes, that was more than 15 years ago, but even better than that, others that have followed it correctly have had amazing results. And if you want to get yourself a copy, just go to www.ethanlerock.com/automate. That's ETHANLEROCK.com/automate. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can click on the link below and you can get it there. And before we go, I would love it if you left some comments below on this week's episode on your opinion regarding people labeling themselves based on how they eat, or based on people that knock certain macronutrients, or some of those of you that are really having a hard time with consistency, maybe some of the roadblocks you've been running into. Because what I will do is I do read the comments each week, and I may just jump in there and provide some responses, or I might make a video for a future show that can help the whole community. So I'll leave it there, and until we meet again, stay healthy, be happy, and live your life with intention every single day.